أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ألم تر كيف فعل ربك بأصحاب الفيل؟ ألم يجعل كيدهم في تضليل وأرسل عليهم طيرا أبابيل ترميهم بحجارة من سجيل فجعلهم كعصف مأكول. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. This week we begin the Tafseer of Surah Fil, very famous incident, the incident briefly mentioned last week about how Abraha and his army, they came to attack the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and they were destroyed. So before we look at the surah itself, first thing, when did this event take place? Majority of the Mufassirin, they say that this event took place approximately 50 days before the birth of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this event was so significant in the lives of the Quraysh that they named this year Amul Fil, the year of the elephant. And the whole calendar, the events that took place afterwards, it began to revolve around this year. If something happened, they would say it happened after the year of the elephant. It happened after the year of Amul Fil. So how did Abraha and his army, how did he exactly gather his army, and what was the intent behind attacking the Kaaba? So what was the cause? Ibn Kathir, in his commentary, his leading authority, he mentions in detail that to understand how this will happen, he says pre-Islam, before the birth of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Yemen was under the control of the rulers of Himyar, and these people, they were idolaters. They used to worship false gods. And their last king was a person by the name of Dhu Nuwas. He was an idolater himself. And obviously, before, this is pre-Islam, so the people at that time, they used to follow the deen of Isa alayhi salam, the prophet before our Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Isa alayhi salam, they would follow in the teachings of Isa ala nabiyina alayhi salatu wasalam. And they used to follow, they were the righteous Christians of the time, who believed and worshipped in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. So this Dhu Nuwas, he persecuted the believers that they were on the right. They used to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as one. Because he was an idolater, he tortured and he persecuted the believers. And many scholars agree on the fact that to the extent that he killed 20,000 sincere and righteous Christians. And this is mentioned in وَالسَّمَاءِ ذَاتِ الْبُرُوجِ قُتِلَ أَصْحَابُ الْأُخْدُودِ النَّارِ ذَاتِ الْوَقُودِ. So he dug large trenches and he set fire to them, and all these people were burnt alive. But from these people, the people that were burnt in the fire, this is narrated that 2 of these people somehow managed to escape. And these 2 people from Yemen, they fled to Syria. And there they took refuge in the Roman Emperor Caesar. He was a Christian himself. And they requested the emperor because they were Christian, all these people that had passed away, they were Christians. They requested the emperor to avenge this cruel act of Dhu Nuwas. So Caesar, at the time, he writes to Najashi. Najashi was the king of Abyssinia, which is now known as Ethiopia. He was closer to the vicinity of Yemen. So Najashi, he sends 2 governors, and then by the name of Arbat and Abraha. So here you mentioned the name Abraha has been mentioned. Arbat and Abraha, along with a huge army. So now these 2 people, Arbat and Abraha, they go to Yemen with a large army. They invade Yemen and they free the whole country from the possession of the people of Himyar, who were idolaters. Dhu Nuwas, who was the ruler at the time, he tries to escape, but he is killed, and in some accounts he mentioned he drowns in the sea. So Yemen is freed, and Yemen becomes a part of this Abyssinia. Now Abraha is appointed as the viceroy. Now because 2 of these people were sent, Arabat and Abraha, they began to quarrel and seeking power. Abraha, he fights with Arabat, and eventually he slays him, he kills him. and so he takes control and he becomes the governor of Yemen, and he becomes the governor of the entire region. So now he's captured Yemen. Yemen is under more or less under his control. He is the governor of Yemen. So he decides to build a very large, lavish, superbly luxurious cathedral in the area. And the entire purpose is or was to attract the people of Yemen and attract the people of the Arabian Peninsula to Yemen, to make Yemen the center, in contrast to Mecca, because people used to migrate, people used to do pilgrimage to Mecca, the house of Allah, and the Kaaba. Obviously, the people even though they used to be idol worshippers, but they had this high reverence for the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they used to constantly, all the Arab tribes, despite where they lived, they used to have a lot of respect, and they had a sentimental value for the Kaaba. So he did like this, and so he decides to build something grand. So he builds it. A lot of money is spent, and he's so tall in some narrations that from the ground you cannot see the peak of this masterpiece that he has built, an architectural masterpiece that he has built. So after having built this, his desire is that the people start to come here, and he wants that people stop going to the Kaaba in Mecca, and this Yemen should now become a center. But like I mentioned before, even though the Arabs were idol worshippers, the love of the reverence of the deen of Ibrahim alayhi salam, the house of Allah, which was built by Ibrahim, it permeated their hearts, and they weren't going to let go. So Abraha, he begins to spread news that these people should come here, but the Arab tribes, they are enraged and they're infuriated by the claims of Abraha. To the extent that in some narrations mentioned, on one night, some people or one person enters this church and he defecates it. He passes stool or urinates in the church. To this it comes in these accounts. And in another narration, it's mentioned that some people come and they set fire to this monument that was built, and much of it is destroyed. So Abraha, when he learns about this, when he comes to know of this, that the Quraysh and the Arabs, they have done this, he gets so angry, he loses it. He gets so infuriated, and he takes an oath that he's gonna march in the direction of the house of Allah, and he's going to destroy the Kaaba, and he's going to tear it down, and he's going to level the Kaaba to the ground. So he prepares a huge army with himself, a powerful army, many soldiers, and he takes elephants. He asks the Najashi for his permission, and he goes and he sets out. And it is mentioned that he takes elephants with him, and one particular elephant was very unique. He was very large, abnormally large, and he was named Mahmud, and he was in size and power never the likes of which had never been seen before. So he goes out and he charges in the direction of the Kaaba. So when he en route to Kaaba, he stops by in Ta'if. Then the people of Ta'if, they, instead of fighting with Abraha, because they didn't want to fight against him, they take sides with him. The rest of the Arab tribes, one of the reasons for this, the rest of the Arab tribes, their idols were placed in the Kaaba, whereas the people of Ta'if, their idol they worship was by the name of Lat. And this idol they kept in Ta'if. So even if the Kaaba was destroyed for these people, their idol was safe in Ta'if. So this is why they didn't really care if the Kaaba was destroyed. But they even appointed a person to guide Abraha and his army to reach the Kaaba. So he goes and he comes closer to Makkah. So when he comes closer to Makkah, Abraha and his army, they begin to take their possessions of the people of the Quraysh and the people of Quraysh, and in doing so they take a lot of partly the possession of Abdul Muttalib. Abdul Muttalib was the grandfather of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he also at the time he was the chief of the Quraysh. So when Abraha he sees it, later on when Abraha he comes and he actually sees Abdul Muttalib in person, he is so impressed that he looks so handsome and he's attracted to his personality. So he descends from his throne and he sits down with Abdul Muttalib, and he with the interpreter he begins to talk with him. So he asks Abdul Muttalib, "What do you need?" Abdul Muttalib, he replies to him, I want the king to give back my possessions that he has taken, the 200 camels that his soldiers have taken." So Abraha tells him, he tells the interpreter to reply back to him, "When I first met you, I admired you greatly and had great respect for you. But all that respect that I had is now lost. You're only asking for this 200 camels, even though despite this, you know that the reason I've come for to tear down the Kaaba, which is the embodiment of your religion and of your forefathers, and you don't even you don't even try to persuade me from breaking or destroying the Kaaba." Abdul Muttalib very calmly he replies, "I am the owner of these camels and I am concerned about them. I am not the owner of the house of Allah. The master of the house of Allah knows how to best to protect his house." So Abraha he says, your God cannot protect it from me." Then Abdul Muttalib he says to him, "Then do as you like, take your chance. Otherwise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will deal with you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will protect his house." And in some narration it comes that with Abdul Muttalib, some other of the leaders of the Quraysh were there, and they offer him a lot of wealth. 1/3 of the produce of Tihama, one of the areas, 1/3 of the produce of Tihama we'll offer you. But he said he was not ready to come to a peace treaty at all, but he was fixated on destroying the Kaaba. So he wasn't going to listen, he wasn't going to come to a deal, he didn't want any wealth, but he only had one desire, that was to destroy the house of Allah. So when the next morning comes, Abraha he prepares to enter the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he prepares this elephant like I mentioned before, Mahmud, which was very abnormally large and very powerful, and he mobilizes his army. And then he tries to get his elephant to turn towards the Kaaba. But when he tries to direct it towards the Kaaba, the elephant doesn't move. And many times, Abraha and his army, they try to take it and they try to forcefully push the elephant in the direction of the Kaaba, but it doesn't move. When they try in other directions, then the elephant begins to move and walks. But as soon as they try to push it into the direction of the Kaaba, they are unable to do so. But at last, they go and they head towards the direction of the Kaaba. But as they are going, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the owner of the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself, he deals with these people. And he sends, like we will do in the surah, he sends a flock of birds, each bird carrying three pebbles, very small stones, one in each claw and one in its beak, and they drop them. And these pebbles, they drop like bullets. They penetrate completely through the person as soon as the impact is such that say they hit the skulls of the people, like targeted attack, and they penetrated straight through them. So it's like a flurry of bullets raining from the sky, and Abraham's entire army, majority of the army is destroyed. The strength from the qudrat of Allah, Abraha is not destroyed there and then. Well, he's inflicted with such a disease that he manages to return home, but the disease is such that his body starts to decay, and the limbs of his body start to fall, and they begin to deteriorate. And so he returns home in such a condition that the people of Yemen, when he returns home, they are so shocked. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, his death comes, eventually he dies, but even allowing the people of Yemen to witness this, now the news spreads, and now the people, they are scared to attack the people of the Kaaba. They're scared to attack the Kaaba. So not only does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroy the Abraham's army, but the Makkah remains a safe and peaceful place. And also the Quraysh, they are given the upper hand, they are given this more reverence, and all the people around in the Arabian Peninsula, their respect for the Kaaba only increases. So even then the people, so there's no the door for a person to attack again, or the people for a second attack, he finishes, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protects his house. And this incident, it wasn't something many, even after the time of when the surah is revealed, many times, because this event, it happened in the year Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was born. So even when this surah is being revealed, many people had witnessed this incident in the lifetime of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The senior members of the Quraysh, the senior members, elders, they had witnessed this with their own eyes, and it was well known throughout the whole Arabian Peninsula, and it was talked about very often. So even all the people, they knew about this event, because when this Abraham and his army, they came to attack, the Quraysh, they were helpless, they couldn't defend themselves. So most of them went into the mountain to take refuge, and they decided to leave the Kaaba to its Rabb, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that he will defend. And likewise, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he defended him in a manner that was suitable. So now looking at the surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the first verse, Alam tara kayfa fa'ala rabbuka bi ashabil fil. Have you not seen, O Muhammad? So here, majority of the Mufassirun, they mention Alam tara is referring to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how your Lord dealt with the companions of the elephant. So briefly translating. So first thing, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions Alam tara. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not the singular is used. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking directly to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He's not talking to anyone else. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not mention Alam tara. He's talking directly to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So another thing that we can learn from here, even though the Quran is going to be recited, and the people of the Quraysh and the people of the time, they will listen, eventually they will listen, and they will listen to this. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not even want to talk to these people directly, but rather he talks to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he says Alam tara. So one commentator, he mentions, Dr. Fadil Hassan Ar-Rai mentioned that this surah is a lesson for every rebellious tyrant, oppressor, and dictator who lives in any civilization or at any time. That those people who oppress others, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he will look up happen to the people of elephants. In the same manner, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will deal with them. So in Arabic, you can say Ama ra'ayta, did you not see, and Alam tara. So the difference is, even though the meaning is more or less, when you translate, is the same. Or when you say Ama ra'ayta, you use the past tense. When you say Alam tara, the present and future tense is used. And this signifies in balagha, Arabic rhetoric, that it gives a special meaning, that it gives that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala dealing with the oppressors. It won't just occur for that present time, but it will something that will continuously, it will happen again and again. It gives the benefit of continuity. Now, this how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala dealt with the people of elephants, even in the after this event, with continuity, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will again continue to deal with the oppressors in a similar manner. So like was saying, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is addressing Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But ra'a yara means to see. But like I mentioned before, this majority of the commentators, they mentioned this event of Ashabul Fil, of Abraha attacking the Kaaba, happened 50 days before the birth of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So why mention did you not see? Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, obviously he was born before this, so how could you see? So one explanation that was given is that this event is so known so famously, that so many people had seen this and so many people had heard about this, is as if Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had witnessed this with his own eyes. Another another explanation is that it doesn't mean there are two. One is to physically see with your own eye, and secondly is to visualize, to take this meaning as figuratively. So even in English, you say, when someone's explaining something and you reply, yes, oh, I see. You don't literally mean you see. You say I see as in the meaning figuratively. You use that to say that you understand. So to explain that here is used figuratively, not literally. The Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam did not physically see this with his own eyes, but it's used figuratively, that to think about. Have you not thought about? Have you not pondered upon how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala dealt with the people of Ashabul Fil? And another benefit of saying Alam Tara includes the meaning of ta'ajjub, that shock and amazement. Did you not see how your master, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala dealt with the people of Ashabul Fil, the people of the companions of the elephant. Then kayfa, then again kayfa is used to show amazement. Then fa'ala. Now fa'ala refers to an action, and in another word in Arabic also used for an action is amal. Now what's the difference between say fa'ala and using amal? Say fa'ala is one subtle difference is between the two is that fa'ala is done without any effort and amal requires effort. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, majority of the time, the word Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is attributed to Allah is the word fa'ala. Alam tara kayfa fa'ala rabbuka bi'ad. Alam tara. So many times Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the word fa'ala is attributed to Allah because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He requires no effort, no planning. Whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is done with ease. So it's the word fa'ala. Rabbuka, how your Rabb, how your master. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could have brought many names, could have brought the name of Allah, but like mentioned previously as well, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses the word Rabb, this signifies that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is our master, even though Rabb includes many meanings, but mainly the master, hence establishing this connection that we have to enslave ourselves and making us up. That's why in the surah which comes next, Surah Quraysh, لإلاف قريش, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions فَلْيَعْبُدُوا رَبَّ هَذَا الْبَيْتِ. They should become abd. They should enslave themselves to the Rabb, to the master of this house. So alam tara kayfa fa'ala rabbuka bi ashabil fil, with the people of the elephants. And here, even the word, even though in Abraha, his army, there's mentioned that they had between 9 to 13 elephants, but here the word fil is used in a singular, only fil referring to just one elephant. Hasn't been brought in the plural form. One reason is that this army was known because of that one elephant which was very famous by the name of Mahmud, and because he was extremely big and huge, and that because of that group of people that whole army came to be known as Ashabul Fil, referring to that one particular elephant. And so here, again, another benefit of saying Ashabil Fil, when you say Sahaba or Ashab of something, like you have the companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So you see, the people who you are companions of, obviously Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is of a higher status, and the companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam were of a lower status. But here, these people have been referred to as the companions of the elephant. Now signifying that these people are so low, they are even below the rank of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned some places in the Quran, they are even lower than the elephants, they're even lower than animals, they're even lower than the elephants. That's how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to these people. And if you look, so this is how Allah, if you from one angle you look at this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has destroyed these people. And in reference, if you look at it from another point of view, that this is how this benefits Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This surah is revealed in Makkah, the Makkah period, before Nabi sallallahu has migrated to Medina. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his Sahaba, they are being persecuted. They are small in number. They have no political power. They have no army. They have no strength. But this surah is a reminder for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Sahaba radiallahu anhum that in the same way, when Abraha and his army they came to attack the Kaaba, the Quraysh, the Arabs at the time, they had no power to defend. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He Himself, He defended His house, He defended the Kaaba, and He completely took care of the enemy. So even though Rasulullah and the Muslims were low in number, they have no power, they have no backup, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He can still defend the Muslims, and He can take away and He can destroy His enemy, and He can destroy the non-believers in the same manner. So now, inshallah, we'll conclude here on this first verse this week and carry on from the second verse next week. بارك الله لنا ولكم في القرآن العظيم ونفعنا وإياكم بالآيات والذكر الحكيم.